Yo, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to Wuthering Waves. In today's video, I'm going to go over 5 characters you guys should focus on in global release. But these characters' kits aren't finalized because global release is like 6 days away, so their kit might change when the game officially releases. So don't take everything I say 100% factual. Just wait for the game to come out. Their kits might change. So I'm just going to go over characters that you guys will focus on based off of the information I have right now. But before I get started on the video, make sure you guys hit that like button, subscribe if you haven't. I really appreciate it. And let's go ahead and hop right into the video. Now, the first character I want to talk about is Vina. When it comes to support and buffing attack and damage, Vina is going to be your best in slot character because she can literally buff your allies' damage by like 15% and she can buff your allies' attack by 20%. And the duration for these buffs, it's crazy. So if we look at her passive skills, if we come down over here to her inherent skill Gift of Nature, it says when casting the resonant skill Botany Experiment and Resonance Liberation, Arboreal Flourish, or Outro skill Blossom, the attack of the characters in the team is increased by 20% for 20 seconds. That 20-second duration is insane. You are getting a 20% attack increase for a pretty long time. And if you have a DPS unit who scales off of attack, they will 100% benefit from her inherent skill Gift of Nature. Now when we look at her other inherent skill Grace of Life, she can basically prevent your allies from taking fatal damage. So let's say there's a boss who's going to one tap one of your allies. Well, Vina can basically help them survive that one shot, basically giving them that immortality. But the downside of her Grace of Life is that this effect can only be triggered once every 10 minutes. So the 10 minutes is really long. So you're basically gonna have to focus on surviving for at least 10 minutes. And once that 10 minutes is up, if one of your allies die, Vina is just going to prevent them from dying. And then when we look at her concerto skill, we have the outro skill Blossom. So when we look at her passive skill, the Gift of Nature, it says when she activates a Botany Experiment, Arboreal Flourish, and Blossom, she's going to grant your allies 20% attack increase. So when we come over to concerto skills, we look at her outro skill Blossom. When she triggers this, not only will she trigger the additional 20% attack increase, she's also going to give your teammates 50% increase in total damage for not 20 seconds but 30 seconds. So that is insane. You're basically getting like a 20 or you're getting a 35% attack and total damage. You're basically getting like a 35% increase of damage for in total, like let's say 40 seconds, because this one, the Blossom, is 30 seconds and then the additional 20% attack is 20 seconds. So this character right off the bat is definitely going to be your best in slot support character. She's going to be used in pretty much every single team comp because she can literally buff damage, which is insane. So Vina, definitely a character you want to go for if you're planning on rerolling. You want to reroll for this character. Now, when we talk about DPS, Yinin is going to be your best in slot DPS unit. She is by far going to be the best DPS unit in the game. And the reason why is because she has this ability where she's going to inflict these send binding marks on the enemy. And when she inflicts this mark on the enemy, her basic attack and evasion attack will increase. And on top of that, she is going to deal extra damage when she hits enemies who have the mark. So when we take a look at her basic attack Zapstring Dance, it says when basic attack hits the target, it will leave a silk thread connecting the puppet Zapstring and the target and grant a send binding mark. The send binding mark disappears when Yinin leaves the field. So when you're using this character, you want to make sure that before you switch, before you bring her to the battlefield, you want to use all of your support units like Vina, for example. You want to buff her because once you swap over to Yinin, you won't be able to, switch to other characters, because if you do, the mark that she inflicted on the enemy will disappear. So when we take a look at Magnetic Roar, it says Lightning Execution deals electro damage once, ending the magnetic state. When hitting a target with the center's mark, it deals extra damage. And what is magnetic state? Well, magnetic state, just like I said earlier, during the magnetic state, the puppet zap string will be in a state of discharge, enhancing Yinlin's basic attack and evasion attack, and triggering judgment attack when dealing damage. Each basic attack can only trigger once and can trigger up to 4 times. So her basic attack is like the main focus when it comes to inflicting that sin binding mark on the enemy. And that's literally how she's going to get additional damage. When we look at her passive skills, she's going to get a critical hit rate increase by like 15% when she uses the skill Magnetic Roar. So Magnetic Roar is also important because you're basically going to buff her damage with Magnetic Roar. And then with target focus, it says the damage of the resonant skill Lightning Execution hitting a target with the Sin Binding Mark is increased by 10%, and attack is increased by 10% when triggering this effect. So you're getting like a 20% damage increase from target focus when the enemy, like you're getting an additional attack increase when the enemy has the Sin Binding Mark. So this mark is extremely important when you're using Yinlin. You want to make sure that the enemy always has the mark so that she can get all of these additional attack bonuses, these additional damage bonuses, and she'll be able to do a lot of damage. So that is pretty much Yinlin. She is definitely going to be top tier DPS unit in the game. And if you are planning on rerolling for this character, by all means go ahead. She is an insane unit. Now, the next DPS unit we have is Jhin. She is going to be Wind Element. And what's really good about this character is the fact that she is really good at dealing with enemy trash mobs. So if you're trying to farm for materials, if you're trying to get materials from enemies, her ultimate can help you eliminate those enemies quickly because she's going to create a vortex that's going to suck in enemies into like one specific spot, and she's just gonna instantly delete them with her ultimate. So I feel like that's what's really good about this character, the fact that she can just, create like a strong wind field, and that wind field is just gonna obliterate these enemy trash mobs. And she also has a parry mechanic in her kit where she can parry enemy attacks, and she's also going to be immune to the attack damage as well. So this character, absolutely insane. She can also create a shield, which is really nice, and she can also receive like less damage. Like she can get like a damage taken reduction by like 50%, which is absolutely insane. In her passive skill, there's a lot going on here. As you guys can see, she has damage taken reduction, she has, shield, a lot of things going on. And the crazy thing about this shield is the fact that the shield that she creates can literally last for 30 seconds. That is a long time. So not only will this unit deal good damage, her survivability is definitely going to be really nice. So it seems like she's definitely going to be a top tier unit in like the open world exploration, and especially against, enemy trash mobs. So Jhin, if you're thinking about, getting a unit who's going to focus on AoE attacks and, deleting enemy trash mobs instantly, she is definitely going to be your best in slot unit. Really, really strong 5-star character that you definitely want to go for. Now, the next character we have is Encore. Encore is going to be, one of your main DPS units, and her element is fusion. So what is really good about this character? So when we take a look at her active skills, you with this character, you really want to do basic attacks with her, and you also want to use her Cosmos Rampage, which is her Resonance Liberation. That's probably her ultimate, and you also want to use her Resonance skill. And the reason why is because she has this thing called the Dissonant State. In a Dissonant State, she's going to receive 70% less damage. So she's going to reduce the amount of damage she takes by 70%. And why is that good? Because when we look at her inherent skill, Angry Cosmos, she's going to increase her damage by like 12%. So with this character, you mostly want to focus on, making sure that she stays above 70% HP so that she can always have that additional 12% damage increase. And how do you build up the dissonance state? So when we look at the dissonance acquisition rules, it says when the normal attack woolly attack hits the target, it will restore dissonance. And we look at the resonance skills, heat woolly and energetic welcome, it will restore 30 points of dissonance. And then when the intro skill woolly helper hits the target, it will restore 40 points of dissonance. So dissonance, you want to make sure that you're always building up her dissonance so that she can get that 70% damage taken reduction because that will basically increase the chances of her dealing more damage, because she will get that additional 12% damage increase when her HP is above 70%. And then we look at her inherent skill, Woolie's Cheers. She will also get a fusion damage bonus by like 15%. This will last for 10 seconds, but that is also really good, the fact that she's able to increase her fusion damage because her element type is fusion. And then with her concerto skills, she can also create like a field, and this field can do like, it can deal damage over time. uh she's going to create a ground flame with a radius of 3 meters, and the ground flame will continue to burn the target within the range, causing 176.76% of Encore's attack every 1.5 seconds. So she has damage over time involved in her kit, which is honestly pretty good. So that is pretty much Encore. Encore is going to be a really nice DPS unit to pick up. Is she going to be better than Yinlin? Not at all, but she is a strong DPS unit to have in your account. Now, last but not least, we have Jhin. So this guy is going to be an arrow DPS unit. So what is he good for? Why should you go for him? Because he is a basic and heavy attack monster. So when we take a look at his kit, you guys can see that his basic attack and heavy attack, there's like different, modes and states for his heavy attack and mid-air attack as well. So his basic attack, there's a lot going on here. And when we look at his resonance skill, Wind Quiller, it's pretty simple. All he does is he just dashes forward a certain distance, causing arrow damage. Really similar to Zhao in Genshin, where he just dashes back and forth and deals damage. Well, we're going to look at his passive skill in a couple seconds here, but when we look at his Resonance Liberation Emerald Storm, he's basically going to enter a mode, and when he enters this mode, he's going to use basic attack or heavy attack, and he's going to cast a lance attack. So when you look at his active skill, his basic attack is way more important than, of course, his Resonance Liberation. Now, when we look at his passive skill, so one thing to keep in mind is, with this character, in order for you to actually activate his passive skill, he has this thing called Resolve, and you want to build up this Resolve meter or Resolve stacks. You want to get at least 30 points or higher, because if you don't get 30 points of Resolve, you won't be able to activate his passive skill. So what can he do in his passive? So when we take a look at Jhin's passive skill, it says if the Resolve is higher than 30 points, 30 points of Resolve will be consumed, and the damage of this resonance skill, Wind Quiller, will be increased by 20%. So Wind Quiller, when we go back, Wind Quiller is his resonance skill. So you guys can see that it looks pretty simple, but if you actually have above 30 points of Resolve, you'll be able to do a lot more with his resonance skill. And then when we continue, it says when casting Resonance Liberation, which is his ultimate, if the Resolve is higher than 30 points, 30 points of Resolve will be consumed, and Emerald Storm Finale will be cast, causing arrow damage. This damage is heavy attack damage. So once again, basic attack is really important on his character. And then it says the rules for obtaining Resolve. It says accumulate Resolve when the normal attack Lone Lance hits the target. That is basically his basic attack as well, for sure. And then you can accumulate 30 points of Resolve when the intro skill Tactical Strike hits the target. If Jhin does not hit the target within 10 seconds, the Resolve will gradually decrease. So you want to make sure that with this character, you want to constantly attack, because if you don't constantly attack, you are going to lose those Resolve points. And then when we look at his inherent skill, Heavenly Balance, after casting the intro skill Tactical Strike, the basic attack damage bonus and heavy attack damage bonus of Jhin's increase by 8%, lasting for 14 seconds. So he's going to get a basic attack and heavy attack damage bonus, which is really nice. And then for his next inherent skill, when gathering, when hitting a target, Jhin's critical hit increases by 1%, lasts for 8 seconds, and can stack up to 10 layers. So 10 layers probably means like he's going to get 10% of critical hit increase, like 10 stacks, which means 10% in total, maybe. But that is pretty much his passive skill, and that is the reason why his resonance skill and his basic attack Lone Lance is really important. And then when we look at concerto skill, he's going to basically, he's going to cast, of course, his heavy attack, and this heavy attack is going to hit the enemy target. He will then summon a King Long to attack together, causing 313.40% arrow damage, lasting 8 seconds. Can be triggered once every 1 second up to 2 times. So the max of his outro skill is 2 times, so he can trigger his concerto skills self-discipline 2 times in total. So this guy, when I look at his kit, like I said, basic attack is going to be extremely important on for this character, and a wind coiler and alongside with his resonance liberation is also going to be important. So that is pretty much Jhin. So that is pretty much all I have for you guys for like the top 5 characters you should focus on when Wuthering Waves officially releases in global. There are of course other units that are really good, but I feel like those 5 units, they really intrigue me because Vina, the fact that she can increase your entire team's damage is just really good, and the duration of her damage increase is just so nice. And she can also prevent your allies from taking fatal damage. And we also have Encore, who has that damage over time with her huge fusion damage field, and she can also increase her own fusion damage. These 5 units are just really nice, and you should really focus on getting them. If you are a person who loves rerolling, I feel like those 5 characters will really carry you long term in Wuthering Waves. But anyways, that's pretty much all I have for you guys in this video. Make sure you guys hit that like button, subscribe if you haven't. I really appreciate it. And I hope this video was able to help you guys out. And I'm really looking forward to making more videos for you guys in the future. But I hope you all have a good one, and I'll be catching you guys on the next one. Peace.